All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Saira Mushtaba and with me is Sunil Verma. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate New Bhaupur, New Khurja section of Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor at 11 this morning. Kisan Rail Service, a measure to increase the income of farmers, says Prime Minister. Centre to hold another round of talks with farmers' unions tomorrow. India's COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 95.83%. World Health Organization warns new variant of coronavirus may spread the pandemic more seriously. And in Melbourne Cricket Test, Australia were bowled out for 200 in the second innings. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the New Bhaupur, New Khurja section of Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, EDFC, at 11 a.m. today through video conferencing. The 351-kilometer New Bhaupur, New Khurja section of EDFC is situated in Uttar Pradesh and is built at a cost of 5,750 crore rupees. The section will open new vistas of opportunity for local industries such as the aluminium industry in Kanpur Dehat district, dairy sector in Auraiya, textile production in Etawah, glassware industry in Firozabad, and locks and hardware in Aligarh district. The section will decongest the existing Kanpur-Delhi main line and will enable Indian Railways to run faster trains. During the event, the Prime Minister will also inaugurate EDFC's Operation Control Centre at Prayagraj. This will act as the command centre for the entire route length of the EDFC. The centre is one of the largest structures of its type globally, with modern interiors, ergonomic design and best-in-class acoustics. Minister for Railways Piyush Goyal has said that railways should gear up to ensure last-mile connectivity as it speeds up the progress of dedicated freight corridors, DFCs, in the country. Reviewing the progress of upcoming DFCs, Mr. Goyal asked the officials to continue to engage and coordinate with all the stakeholders in ensuring that the remaining sections of land acquisitions are also completed at the earliest. The minister also suggested the formation of dedicated management teams led by a senior official for each project of railways for day-to-day effective monitoring and resolution of the project issues.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has flagged off the 100th Kisan Rail from Sangola in Maharashtra to Shalimar in West Bengal through video conferencing yesterday. In his address, Mr. Modi said, Kisan Rail Service is a measure to increase the income of the farmers and it will bring a big change in the economy related to farming.
जो रेल अभी तक पूरे देश को आपस में जोड़ती थी, वो अब पूरे देश के कृषि बाजार को भी जोड़ रही है, एक कर रही है। साथियों, किसान रेल सेवा देश के किसानों की आमदनी बढ़ाने की दिशा में भी एक बहुत बड़ा कदम है। इसमें खेती से जुड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था में बड़ा बदलाव आएगा। इससे देश की कोल्ड सप्लाई चेन की ताकत भी बढ़ेगी। सबसे बड़ी बात ये कि किसान रेल से देश के 80% से अधिक और सीमांत किसानों को बहुत बड़ी शक्ति मिली है। ये मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि इसमें किसानों के लिए कोई न्यूनतम मात्रा तय नहीं की गई है। अगर कोई किसान 50-100 किलो का पार्सल भी भेजना चाहता है तो वो भी भेज सकता है।
He said it will also increase the strength of the country's coal supply chain. The Prime Minister said it shows the commitment of the government to serve the farmers.
आजादी के पहले से भी भारत के पास बहुत बड़ा रेलवे नेटवर्क रहा है। कोल्ड स्टोरेज से जुड़ी टेक्नोलॉजी भी पहले से मौजूद रही है। अब किसान रेल के माध्यम से इस शक्ति का बेहतर इस्तेमाल होना शुरू हुआ है। साथियों, छोटे किसानों को कम खर्च में बड़े और नए बाजार देने के लिए हमारी नीयत भी साफ है और हमारी नीति भी स्पष्ट है। हमने बजट में ही इससे जुड़ी महत्वपूर्ण घोषणाएं कर दी थी। पहली किसान रेल और दूसरी कृषि उड़ान। यानी जब हम ये कह रहे हैं कि हमारी सरकार अपने किसानों की पहुंच को देश के दूर दराज वाले क्षेत्रों और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजार तक बढ़ा रही है, ये बातें हम सिर्फ हवा में नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम इसे धरती पर साकार कर रहे हैं।
He said it is also proof of how fast our farmers are ready for new possibilities. Mr. Modi said Kisan Rail and Krishi Udan have a big role for farmers so that they can sell their crops in other states. He said new technologies are being incorporated into Indian agriculture. The Prime Minister said the government is giving priority to storage-linked infrastructure and processing industries associated with value addition in farming products.
पीएम कृषि संपदा योजना के तहत मेगा फूड पार्क्स, कोल्ड चेन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, एग्रो प्रोसेसिंग क्लस्टर, प्रोसेसिंग यूनिट ऐसे करीब 6,500 प्रोजेक्ट स्वीकृत किए गए हैं, जिसमें से अनेक प्रोजेक्ट पूरे हो चुके हैं और लाखों किसान परिवारों को इसका लाभ मिल रहा है। आत्मनिर्भर अभियान पैकेज के तहत भी माइक्रो फूड प्रोसेसिंग उद्योगों के लिए 10,000 करोड़ रुपए स्वीकृत किए गए हैं। साथियों, आज अगर सरकार देशवासियों की छोटी छोटी जरूरतों को भी पूरा कर पा रही है, तो इसका कारण है सहभागिता।
The Prime Minister said a facility like Kisan Rail has given millions of small farmers of West Bengal a huge facility.
अब आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के तहत इसको दर्जनों दूसरे फल और सब्जियों के लिए भी बढ़ाया गया है। इसका भी सीधा लाभ देश के किसान को मिल रहा है। पश्चिम बंगाल का किसान भी इस सुविधा से जुड़ा है। पश्चिम बंगाल में आलू, कटहल, गोभी, बैंगन जैसी अनेक सब्जियां खूब होती है। इसी तरह अनानास, लीची, आम, केला ऐसे अनेक फल भी वहां के किसान उपजाते हैं। मछली चाहे मीठे पानी की हो या खारे पानी, पश्चिम बंगाल में कोई कमी नहीं है। समस्या इनको देश भर के मार्केट तक पहुंचाने की रही है। अब किसान रेल जैसी सुविधा से पश्चिम बंगाल के लाखों छोटे किसानों को एक बहुत बड़ा विकल्प मिला है।
The Prime Minister said recent reforms will lead to expansion of agribusiness and these groups will be the biggest beneficiaries.
नए कृषि सुधारों से कृषि से जुड़ा जो व्यापार कारोबार बढ़ने वाला है, उसके बड़े लाभार्थी भी किसानों के, ग्रामीण युवाओं के, महिलाओं के यही संगठन है। कृषि कारोबार में जो निजी निवेश होगा, उससे सरकार की इन कोशिशों को ताकत ही मिलेगी। हम पूरी निष्ठा से, पूरी ताकत से भारतीय कृषि को और किसान को सशक्त करने के रास्ते पर चलते रहेंगे।
The central government has invited the processing farmer unions for talks tomorrow to end the impasse over the three farm laws. This will be the 6th round of talks between the government and farmers to end the deadlock. The centre had written to the 40 protesting farmer unions and invited them for talks. Apart from the farm laws, discussions will be held on MSP and on legislations related to air quality and electricity.
The centre has lifted the ban on the export of all varieties of onions with effect from 1st January 2021. In a notification, Directorate General of Foreign Trade DGFT said exports of all varieties of onions will be allowed. In September, the government had prohibited exports due to a spurt in prices. The Ministry of Finance has released the 9th weekly installment of 6,000 crore rupees to the states to meet the GST compensation shortfall. Out of this, an amount of over 5,516 crore rupees has been released to 23 states and an amount of over 483 crore rupees has been released to the 3 union territories with legislative assemblies, that is Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir and Puducherry, that are members of the GST Council. The remaining 5 states, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Sikkim, do not have a gap in revenue on account of GST implementation. Talking to AIR News, former ECAI President Naveen Gupta said,
Ministry of Finance has released 9th weekly installment of 6,000 crores to states to meet the GST compensation shortfall. And it's a good move. And 5,516 crores would be distributed to 23 states, 483 crores to 3 other UTs with legislative assemblies like Delhi, J&K and Puducherry. And it is also heartening to see that the remaining 5 states don't have any revenue gaps on account of GST compensation. So this release of shortfall to states signals a very, I should say, encouraging picture, because this shows that the Indian economy is returning back to normalization after post-COVID, and it shows increased confidence of investors, manufacturing sector and the service sector in the economy.
The News Services Division brings glimpses of the year that was in our special series Year-Ender. The NDA government's Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana has acted as one of the biggest catalysts of socio-economic change in the status of women in the country. Launched in May 2016, the Ujjwala Yojana had achieved its revised target of providing 8 crore LPG connections to the poor nearly 7 months ahead in September last year. Addressing a gathering in Maharashtra on the completion of the target in September 2019, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said the scheme is helping millions of women in India.
उज्ज्वला योजना के तहत 8 करोड़ मुफ्त गैस कनेक्शन देने का जो संकल्प हमने लिया था वो सिद्ध हुआ है। सिर्फ सिद्ध ही नहीं हुआ, बल्कि तय समय से 7 महीने पहले ही लक्ष्य को हमने पा लिया। इन 8 करोड़ कनेक्शन में से करीब 44 लाख अकेले महाराष्ट्र में दिए गए। इस उपलब्धि के लिए मैं आप सभी को, देश की हर उस बहन को जिसको धुएं से मुक्ति मिली है, बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। मैं देश भर के उन साथियों को भी नमन करता हूं जिन्होंने इस योजना को सफल बनाने में बहुत मेहनत की है, मदद की है।
More details from our correspondent.
Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana aims at providing clean cooking fuel to the poor households which are otherwise vulnerable to various health hazards associated with indoor air pollution and bringing in qualitative changes in the living standards. Under this flagship scheme, free LPG connections is being provided in the name of an adult woman, member of a poor family. So far, over 8.3 crore LPG connections have been released. During this COVID-19 pandemic, this scheme has provided a big relief to poor as the government has given free of cost LPG refills for Ujjwala consumers for a period of 3 months. Over 9,709 crore rupees were transferred directly into the bank accounts of Ujjwala beneficiaries during April to June this year, and around 12 crore LPG cylinders were delivered. To rationalize LPG subsidy, the government has introduced well-targeted system of subsidy delivery to the consumers through PEHL. This initiative has helped in identifying ghost accounts, multiple accounts and inactive accounts. Under PEHL, till now around 27 crore beneficiaries have been given subsidy of over 1,36,000 crore rupees through direct benefit transfer. As a measure towards empowerment of poor women who are bereft of access to clean cooking gas, Ujjwala Yojana is enabling social change in the country. Divakar, AR News, Delhi.
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the elected members of the maiden District Development Council DDC elections held in the history of Jammu and Kashmir were administered oath yesterday by the respective district heads across all the districts of Jammu Division. AIR Jammu correspondent reports that on the occasion, 140 DDC members representing 140 block constituencies of 10 districts of the Jammu Division were sworn in. With the completion of the oath ceremony of DDC members, the process to implement Three-Tier Panchayati Raj Act has been fully implemented across the Union Territory. The DDC members will be imparted necessary training about the implementation of rules and regulations. Besides, they will be made aware about the powers delegated to them under the Constitution. 28 MLAs elected in the recent by-polls in Madhya Pradesh were administered the oath as members of the Assembly on Monday by Pro Tem Speaker Rameshwar Sharma, a government official informed. The ruling BJP had won 19 out of the 28 seats in the by-polls held in November this year, taking its strength in the 230-member House to 126. The tally of the Congress, which won 9 of the 28 by-poll seats, is 96 in the House. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
28 MLAs elected in recent bypolls were administered the oath as members of the Madhya Pradesh Assembly. They were supposed to take oath on the first day of the winter session of the Assembly, which was scheduled to begin on Monday. However, after the session was postponed due to some Assembly staffers and MLAs testing positive for COVID-19, the oath ceremony was held in the office of the Speaker. Pooja Pivardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
You're listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate New Bhaupur-New Khurja section of Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor at 11 this morning. Kisan Rail Service, a measure to increase the income of farmers, says Prime Minister. Centre to hold another round of talks with farmers' unions tomorrow. India's COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 95.83%. World Health Organization warns new variant of coronavirus may spread the pandemic more seriously. And in Melbourne cricket test, India was 31 for 2 in their second innings when reports last came in. For quick news updates from the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
The country's COVID-19 recovery rate has reached 95.83%. In the last 24 hours, more than 21,000 COVID patients have recovered. The Health Ministry said the total number of recoveries has gone up to over 97,82,000. The actual caseload currently comprises only 2.72% of the total positive cases. Presently, the total number of active cases in the country is around 2,77,000. During the past 24 hours, 20,021 new cases were reported, taking the total number of positive cases in the country to over 1 crore 2 lakhs. The ministry said that effective implementation of the strategic and graded test, track and treat approach has led to higher recoveries and lower fatalities. Currently, India's case fatality rate is at 1.45%, which is one of the lowest globally. In the last 24 hours, 279 deaths were reported, taking the toll to 1,47,901. According to the Indian Council of Medical Research, more than 7,15,000 tests were conducted in the last 24 hours. The total number of samples tested so far has reached 16 crore 88 lakhs. In Maharashtra, 2,498 new COVID-19 cases were reported yesterday, taking the cumulative total to 19,22,048. According to the State Health Department, 50 deaths were reported in the state, taking the tally of the deceased to 49,305. Case fatality rate in the state is 2.57%. On the other hand, the Health Department data reveals that 4,501 patients were discharged, taking the tally of such patients to 18,14,449. Considering the prevailing threat of COVID-19 at tourist destinations due to the increasing crowd to celebrate the New Year, Tourism Directorate of Maharashtra has issued SOPs for proper care and precautions to be taken by the tourists and other stakeholders, including staff, at these destinations outside the containment zones. Similarly, the state government has also issued guidelines for New Year celebrations and visit to religious places on New Year's Eve and on the first day of the New Year. A report from our Mumbai correspondent.
Tourism Director Dr. Dhananjay Savalkar has directed the district collectors and municipal commissioners to act in accordance with the SOPs at tourist destinations. According to the SOPs and guidelines, the police department, local bodies, district administration and the representatives should form COVID-19 teams to implement the guidelines like preventing the crowding at tourist spots, taking decision about the permissible number of tourists at a time, controlling the groups and guided tours, and also to control special or private programs. Tourists are told to do as much as online booking wherever it is possible for visiting these spots. Use of masks, sanitizers and following social distance, and entry prohibited to the persons above 65 years and children below 10 years, pregnant women, persons with serious ailments are the usual mandatory restrictions. With Nivedita Borkar, Shailesh Patil, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Gujarat, a two-day dry run to check the preparedness of health authorities for a nationwide COVID-19 vaccination program began yesterday. According to the State Health Department, the dry run is being carried out in Rajkot and Gandhinagar districts. State Immunization Officer Dr. Nayan Jani has said that health officials of these two districts have been involved in administrative work on the first day of the drive, while the actual field visits will begin today. He said that the actual vaccine shots will not be administered on people during the dry run. More from our AIR Ahmedabad correspondent.
The digital platform CoWIN will be used for rolling out and scaling up COVID-19 vaccine distribution across the country. Total 15,000 people have been trained in Gujarat to administer the vaccine once the actual process starts. Apart from 4 lakh health workers and 16 lakh frontline workers, about 1 crore people over 50 years of age will be covered on priority basis during the initial phase of vaccine drive in the state. Vaccine doses will be stored in some 2,200 cold chain points across Gujarat. Gujarat Media Club, along with UNICEF and PDPU Communication Department, has organized a media workshop on COVID vaccine awareness in Ahmedabad. Addressing the workshop, the health officer of UNICEF Gujarat, Dr. Shravan, said that the people should continue to follow the compulsory mask, social distancing and hand wash norms even after the vaccination. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
The Home Ministry yesterday issued an order to extend the earlier guidelines for surveillance to remain in force up to 31st of January 2021. It said, while there has been a continuous decline in the active and new COVID-19 cases, there is need to maintain surveillance, containment and caution, keeping in view the surge in cases globally and emergence of a new variant of the virus in the United Kingdom. Accordingly, containment zones continue to be demarcated carefully. Prescribed containment measures strictly followed within these zones, COVID-appropriate behavior promoted and strictly enforced, and the standard operating procedures prescribed in respect of various permitted activities followed scrupulously. World Health Organization senior officials have warned that the coronavirus is not necessarily the big one, and that there is a real chance of another, more serious pandemic spreading across the world. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the UN agency is learning new things about the virus every day, including the ability of new variants to spread, make people sick or have a potential impact on available tests, treatments or vaccines.
The government of Orissa has made the submission of annual property statement by elected representatives and government servants mandatory. A proposal to this effect was approved by the State Cabinet held under the chairmanship of Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik in capital Bhubaneswar yesterday. More from our Bhubaneswar correspondent.
People's representatives, right from the Chief Minister down to the Sarpanch and government employees from the entry level up to the Chief Secretary, will now have to file annual property statement every year. The information will be uploaded in the public domain for greater visibility. Copies of such returns will also be endorsed to the Lokayukt as well. The government believes that the fight against corruption through measures such as these can address social inequality, injustice and poverty. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on senior leaders of the Qatar government and discussed various issues of mutual interest on the second visit of his visit to the Gulf nation. Dr. Jaishankar has concluded his 2-day standalone visit to Qatar, the MEA said. During his visit, Dr. Jaishankar called on the Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and handed over a personal message from Prime Minister Narendra Modi inviting him to visit India and thanking Qatar for taking care of the Indian community during COVID-19. The Amir has accepted the invitation to visit India at an early date. He also recalled his telephonic conversation with Prime Minister Modi, during which both leaders had decided to set up task forces on investment and energy. Both sides are in the process of implementing this decision. The External Affairs Minister also called on Father Amir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. Father Amir appreciated the contribution of the Indian community in Qatar and recalled his visits to India. Dr. Jaishankar also appreciated Father Amir for his insights on global and regional developments. Dr. Jaishankar and Prime Minister and Interior Minister of Qatar, Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa, have discussed strengthening bilateral economic and security cooperation.
Union Territory Ladakh is to get its own meteorological center today. Indian Met Department in Srinagar was dependent on defense establishments in Ladakh for weather readings in the vastly spread region. More from our Ladakh correspondent.
Union Earth Sciences Minister Dr. Harshvardhan will virtually inaugurate the newly established Indian Meteorological Department for Ladakh in late today. The IMD will have 4 automatic weather stations operating in Leh, Kargil, Dras and Stakna. Real-time weather information from these stations will be available online for every 15 minutes and hourly basis through the IMD website. The new Met Center will provide all information relating to weather and climate for entire Ladakh region, including far-off places like Changtang, Nubra, Janskar, Jojila and Dras. IMD Additional DG Anand Sharma said,
"This is just the beginning. We will be having many more such stations at higher altitudes to gauge the signals of global warming, of climate change, if any. The kind of data being generated here will help us to improve our weather forecast and early warning, which will in turn help the people and the planners."
Ladakh Lieutenant Governor R.K. Mathur, MP Jamyang Sering Namgyal and senior officials of the ministry also participate in the virtual event. Ramesh Chandra, All India Radio News, Leh.
In Melbourne Cricket Test, India were 38 for 2 in the second innings when reports last came in. Earlier, the hosts bowled out for 200 in the second innings before lunch, setting a target of 70 runs for India. Cheteshwar Pujara and Mayank Agarwal were out cheaply. This is day 4 of the second Boxing Day Test match between India and Australia. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital will experience a cold wave. Temperature will vary between 5 and 18 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a mainly clear sky. Temperature will hover between 16 and 31 degrees Celsius. Chennai will have a partly cloudy sky and will become cloudy towards the evening or night. Temperature will hover between 21 and 30 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have a mainly clear sky. City observed minimum temperature of 12 degrees and will observe a maximum of 25 degrees Celsius. Srinagar had a mainly clear sky and will become partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. In Jammu, minimum temperature was 5 degrees Celsius while maximum will be 17 degrees. City will have a mainly clear sky. Leh will have a generally cloudy sky. Minimum temperature was minus 10 degrees while maximum will be 0 degrees. Gilgit will have a partly cloudy sky. Temperature will hover between minus 3 to 8 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad will have a partly cloudy sky. Temperature will move between 2 to 13 degrees Celsius. In Dehradun, temperature will hover between 4 and 18 degrees Celsius. City will have a mainly clear sky. Chandigarh will have a partly cloudy sky. Temperature is likely to hover from 5 to 20 degrees Celsius. In Hyderabad, minimum temperature was 14 while maximum will be 30 degrees Celsius. The city witnessed fog or mist in the morning and will have a partly cloudy sky later. Ahmedabad is expected to have a cold wave.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Almost all papers have the much anticipated dry run of the COVID vaccination as their top headline. Hindustan Times reports vaccination dry run kicks off in 4 states. The Tribune headlines Vax dry run smooth in 2 Punjab districts. In some good news, the Times of India says first time since COVID outbreak, weekly cases fall in all states. Papers have widely noticed the Prime Minister flagging off the first driverless train of the country. Hindustan Times writes PM flags off India's first autopilot train. 1,700-kilometer metro lines, services in 25 cities by 2025, says PM, reports the Times of India. The country gets its youngest mayor, with Arya Rajendran taking oath as Thiruvananthapuram mayor. The statesman writes, 21-year-old takes office as India's youngest mayor. And finally, in some news to cheer, the grave of senior-most officer killed in the first war with Pakistan is being restored. The Hindu writes, army to restore grave of Naushera ka Sher. Brigadier Muhammad Usman was the most senior officer killed in 1947-48 war with Pakistan. The grave is located on Jamia Millia Islamia's campus.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate New Bhaupur-New Khurja section of Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor at 11 a.m. Kisan Rail Service, a measure to increase the income of farmers, says Prime Minister. Centre to hold another round of talks with farmers' unions tomorrow. India's COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 95.83%. WHO warns new variant of coronavirus may spread the pandemic more seriously. And in Melbourne Cricket Test, India were 46 for 2 in the second innings when reports last came in. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a great day.